Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the situation report for the day of 856 for the 28th of June. There are additional information that came out over the course of today, the 29th of June, and which resulted in new frontline changes on top of the frontline changes report that I've already put out. And there is frontline changes over at Zagoryokovka, Terni, Bilohorivka, Rozdolivka, Karnel, and Konstantinivka. So after this, we will go into the strategy and tactical reporting, where we go through every single front line of what have happened over the past 24 hours. So it may be boring to you, but there are people who actually appreciate it, and hopefully you can press the like button and share the video to people you think that will be interested in. I'm not sure how much people will still be interested in outside of the people that already is watching nowadays, because the war has been going on for really quite a while. 856 days, is a lot of time. So we're going to go into Zakhoryokivka, and at Zakhoryokivka, we previously have already invalidated Russian claims over here. We have a new geolocation over at this area here, which further invalidates Russian claims. So the front line is getting closer and closer to what the Ukrainian lines are. So the Russian claims are now further invalidated, or the Ukrainians have retaken these positions. So either way, it is good news for the Ukrainians. So that's all over at the Zakhoryokivka region in the Kupiansk front. So the Kupiansk is over here, in case you do not know. And the next frontline change is over Terni, over in the south at the Crimea front. And over this region here, after yesterday's this earlier today, or depending on which day which time zone you're in, after the geolocation that invalidates Russian claims around here, we have another geolocation that came out today that shows the Ukrainians have taken positions around here, largely validating the claims that the Ukrainians have advanced all of this area that was first reported by Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source. So this is the situation over here at Terni. I have not marked this area here as under this area here as under Ukrainian control, because the Ukrainians are geolocated in these two regions. These two regions doesn't necessarily mean that this area here is under Ukrainian control. So I'll leave that there. So that's all for this Terni region. The next frontline change is over at Bilohorivka. So over at the Sivers front, Bilohorivka, based on Russian mapping, the Russians seems to have advanced a bit around here, over on the eastern part of Bilohorivka. So, but this is not a very significant frontline change per se. It just probably shows more, talk more or show more about how the Ukrainians may have withdrawn from this position. But this is just a Russian claim. This is not confirmed based on Ukrainian mapping. So that's all from this area. At Rozdolivka, as per mentioned in the frontline changes report, Ryba have claimed that the Russian forces have captured Rozdolivka, and over the past 12 hours, Ryba have came out with the mapping, which shows the extent of the advancement. So the Russian forces have advanced in this much. They have taken the entire of Rozdolivka. There's some bad arrows. No. So yeah, in this area, in the direction of Perezny. And based on the reports, currently the Russian forces are pushing towards Perezny as they have conquered Rozdolivka. So this is a very significant frontline change around here. It basically alters the entire strategic posture in this sector of the front line. So that's all over at the Rozdolivka region. And the next frontline change is over at Karnel, over at the Bakhmut front. So over this region here, we have over here, the Russian forces geolocated in the new place over on the southwestern part of Karnel micro district, which confirmed the Russian advance. In this area here, we are looking at a very, very small grounds left for the Ukrainians around here, and these locations have been constantly getting struck by thermobaric missiles and airstrikes. So I don't think the Ukrainians will be able to hold this position. We can start to brace ourselves for the capture of Canal over the next few days. So that's all from the Canal at the Bakhmut front. And so the last frontline change is over at Konstantinivka. So another very massive major change around here. So after the story of all this frontline change in the north of the northern side of the Konstantinivka region, just next to Konstantinivka, Russian forces are geolocated just on the outskirts, confirming that the Russians have taken these grounds and have advanced towards Konstantinivka, and they are probably about to enter and start the Battle of Konstantinivka. So this is it basically links up perfectly with the capture of Paraskoviyevka, and I believe the Russians are also going to push from the north. So we're going to see a new advance, a new offensive operation by the Russians in this area here, going into another phase. So that's all for the frontline changes report. So in case you did not press the like button, though, you can start to press it now. No, it needs some love, just caress it, just click it softly. Yeah, it will moan, it will moan. So we're going to start off with the strategy and tactical reporting over at the Kharkiv front. So at the Kharkiv front, we have only fighting being reported at Voschansk. So based on the reports, only Voschansk was being mentioned to have some offensive action over here. The Russian forces, according to two majors, the pro-Russian source reported that there is still fierce fighting around this area here. And basically, most of the action seems to be shelling. So Russian artillery shelled Ukrainian forces are trying to cross the Voschansk River. And there is TOS-1A operating at the Lipsy sector, airstrikes on the 57th Brigade. So it's basically now standoff operation from the Russians, generally speaking. And we have news for the aggregate factory. So based on Ukrainian footage of them shelling or airstriking Russian forces at the aggregate plant, so this confirms that the Russian forces are at this location. So yeah, fighters from the Con group of the 116th Brigade show video of the work of the defense force at the aggregate plant, where the Russian soldiers sat down. So this is for Azovstal. People already forgot about Azovstal. They still cannot get over it. So anyway, why not for other places like Lysychansk, Popasna, Bakhmut? Why about Azovstal? What's so special about Azovstal? So anyway, they think that the Russians are stuck here. So they are very happy. But all to DPA, to you guys, the important thing to note is that the Russians are still there. That's all. The Russians are still there. The Ukrainians failed to push them out. So that's the most important thing to note, because we are only caring about the frontline differences. So, and there is a number of shelling and stuff that is being geolocated all around the Kharkiv front at these various locations. Basically marks where the front line or the Ukrainian forces are, not particularly super important. As Latine, there is a Lancet hitting the sluts over there. I mean, the Haubitsers over there, the artillery. And I think there's one more further south. No, that's all. So that's so these are all. I don't think the rest of this shelling is not important. I think these are just compilation reports. So that's all from the Kharkiv front. We move into the Kupiansk front, where the Kop is. So over the Kupiansk front, the Kupiansk front, the Russian forces are attacking at Sinkivka. The Ukrainian forces have taken grounds over at the Zagorokivka region, as mentioned in the frontline changes report. Russian forces are still attacking Stepova Novoselivka. Geolocation of Russian forces just off Khyslivka, confirming the Russians are pushing. So this area here, there is Russian forces getting hit by FPV drones, but this confirms Russian presence around this area as they continue to make the push towards Stepova Novoselivka. The attack comes from two different directions, and the other one comes from Ivanivska region. So Ukrainians have very strong position at this junction over here. This is one massive major defensive position where they reinforce the village around from this location, which is also why this area attracts a lot of airstrikes and bombardments from the Russian side. So this Stepova Novoselivka is being contested. So Otherwise, this I already mentioned about the correction of the front line, and Ukrainian forces are shelled over in the forest west of Sinkivka. So confirming Ukrainian presence continued to be over at this area here. So moving on, there is also shelling reported over at Kolyakivka, and this location is where we said that there is a possibility that the Russians' objective is over here, Sinkovka and Kolyakivka. So because there is a crossing around here, and if the Russians can secure this crossing, and then this will hamper Ukrainian logistics across the entire of the Oskil fronts. So Russian forces are pushing, Pischane in the Penestove region. They are also attacking the Stemakivka region. So there is multiple directions that they can reach this area, and this area seems to have a lesser entrenchment, at least based on what was previously marked by other open source intelligence groups. So we move into the Sviatove front. Over the Sviatove front, as mentioned just now, Russian forces are still pushing in this general direction towards the crossing at Senkovka, and Russian forces are attacking at Stemakivka, Masyuzarivka, and over at Andrievka, Dezerani, how to pronounce this? Zovneve, Zerelny region. So the Russians are still pushing this area. There's frontline changes report as per noted over at Andrievka and Zerelny as they move towards Vishisneve. So this is the current strategic situation as they continue to expand control, and I believe that the main push is going to be in that direction. Of course, I think they can continue to push a bit more. Yeah, until where the strongholds are. I think this would then threaten Borova as well in a more future objective. So anyway, this is the situation around here. Moving into the Crimea front in the northern part, we have Russian forces continue their push in the direction of Kharkivka, and there's fighting at Makievka and Nevsky. So this is the ongoing thing. So continue to put pressure across the entire front around here in this part of the Zerubets River. Over in the Crimea front south part, Russian forces are attacking at Torske as well as through the Serbiansky forestry. As mentioned by the Ukrainian side, the geolocations have confirmed that the Ukrainians have made a major counteroffensive operation over at Terny, managed to successfully take back a lot of grounds. So there's a strategic picture around here. There is some geolocation of so the Ukrainian forces geolocated within the trenches, confirming the Ukrainians have taken part of the trenches back. So the Ukrainians are on the counter-offensive, despite that, in various fronts, the Russians are making very serious push, that the Ukrainians are struggling very hard. But in this area here where the Russians are not concentrating, the Ukrainians are doing their offensive, so that to balance the odds, I guess. And further back in the other trench, the Russians airstrike the Ukrainian position. This is also probably where the Ukrainians have a forward operating position to reinforce and launch attacks into the front line. So this is why I think they attracted an airstrike. So that's all. Although the forest looks pretty intact around here, in reality, most of these forests are many of the trees have died because of the constant bombardments around this area here. So it is what it is. Do we see this? I think no, I don't think these are updated at all. Maybe not. It looks too thick compared to the footages I'm seeing. So anyway, over at the Sivas front. Sivas front, major developments around here as the Russians continue to put major pressure over at Bilohorivka, Verkhem-Okanyamsky, Sperne, Vimka, Rozdolivka. And so this is you can see that the entire front line the Russians are pushing. Particularly I think the main push is over at Rozdolivka, as where this is actually the most consequential place compared to the rest, because the rest are just front lines per se, where the Ukrainians hold the front lines. But it is through Rozdolivka that you can actually break the entire Ukrainian front line just through the offensive in this direction. The entire front line around here will have to collapse because they will be encircled if they do not leave the position, if the Russians successfully push out from this area here. A long time ago, I did an analysis of this front line. The situation have not changed much, so it is still valid. Where the Russians don't even fight through Rozdolivka. They can actually go up the highway, take right Alexandrivka, go up, capture Kryvyi Luka, and Ukrainian forces over, and this entire area would be encircled. Then the Ukrainians will have to go through Ozene to reinforce and resupply, and this will just make it really, really hard. And once it cut off, is operational encirclement. So this is a very weak front line if the Russians are able to push in this direction going up. So a development around like this entire Sivers front is gone. You don't actually really have to fight around here, which is also why I don't believe about the battle towards Chasivya, because it just don't make sense. So, but whatever it is, Russians seems to be pushing in this area here. Russian forces have claimed to have captured the entire of Rozdolivka, and they are now pushing towards Perezhny. So this is the current situation in this sector, very, very major sector, because with Rozdolivka, they can now push towards Fedorivka, and they can actually swing downwards into the front lines in Mykolaiivka and so-called Ivantsete, and are actually able to collapse this entire area. So this collapse of Rozdolivka is significant, and this will also means that the Russian forces would probably take the high ground very, very soon in a pincer from both sides, and the entire entire area here will become very, very weak. So because these are just for open grounds. So anyway, we shall see how this develops as the Russians are also developing this salient at the Vinka region. So in a smaller, in a smaller place where they can actually do similar operational encirclement missions. So, but anyway, that's all. Sivers also got airstrike by the Russian forces. Serebianka actually got lanceted, and near Kharkovivka there's a boat that was sunk, I think, or that was attacked, in the river along this Seversky Donetsk river. So the Ukrainian boat is going along the river, and then it got hit. So anyway, that's all. Over at the Bakhmut front, in the northern flank, we have nothing. Over in the central flank, there is a geolocation of Russian artillery hitting Ukrainian position. And in the central area here, Russian forces are making major advances in the north of Kernel and also within Kernel. They are attacking into Novi, around the Chasivya region, and they are actually attacking in the Ivaniske region. And particularly this area here is the main push in the Chasivya region. Russian forces have been geolocated along the Kernel, confirming that the push in the forest has been successful. And they have captured most of this forest region here. And based on another geolocation further south, just north of the Kernel micro-district, confirmed that the Russian presence in the northern forest region, which invalidates entire swath of land, which was previously claimed by the Ukrainians. So the Ukrainians is going to have only the northern part of this forest, and maybe Kalanina, because Russian presence in Kalanina is very vague. Not necessary, like even though it seems like they have here, it may not necessarily be true that they might not actually be here. It might be the case where the front line actually looks more like this. So it might actually look more like this. So that's why just take it with a pinch of salt, because we are only mapping based on sources. So but based on my opinion, Ukrainian forces front line may actually look more like this, with the Russians sometimes just incurred into Kalinina and then they run off or they get destroyed. So that's all over at this area here. Sorry about my nose. Suddenly super itchy. Yeah, it's the CIA. So anyway, over in the southern part, in the southern flank of the Bakhmut front, we only have reports of fighting in the Klitschevka region, but it's not much. It's just some talk about fighting. Russian forces allegedly take one stronghold, but I have no idea where this stronghold. So over at the Mayosk in the very southern tip, together with the New York front, Russian forces have been geolocated at this I think it's a pumping station or something. some water facility along the canal. Probably this is used for irrigation, I'm not sure. And the Russian forces have taken this entire area due to this geolocation, confirming that the Russians have taken this area. Then, so which is pretty strategic, I would say, because this is where the crossing between the canal. So I think, where is the next crossing around the canal? I think it's far away. The next crossing is around here. So the next crossing is over at Ozherenivka. So the entire region here, this Ukrainian forces around here may consider be slightly encircled. So, but they still can, of course, swim across the canal. I'm not sure how deep is the canal. So, but it is what it is. So anyway, moving on. Over at the New York front, the front line changes mainly is other than this one, which we covered, the main bulk of the action is over at the Sumy Zalizne Pidevne region. Based on the latest mapping from the Ukrainian side, Ukrainians mapping, Deep State UA have confirmed that the Russian forces have made tremendous advance in the Sumy region and also over at the Pevdene region, which probably means that the Russians may have captured Pevdene fully, and the fighting have already entered into Zalizne. So in this very disturbing shape. So with this, the Ukrainian forces in the Dacha region are unlikely to be able to hold this position, as they are now running the risk of a pincer. I think the Ukrainian forces will eject from this area here to better defendable positions. So this is a massive change. So so this is what it is. Very erotic, and I mean very significant. So we move on to the northern flank of the Avdiivka front. Northern flank, the fighting primarily is similar to the previous SITREP. At Vodyzenka, the Alexandrivka, towards progress towards Yekhanivka at Sokyu. The one at Sokyu is particularly interesting because based on the latest frontline changes report, Sokyu seems to be captured by the Russian forces. Because based on this mapping, Russian forces have taken this much ground. That's basically all of Sokyu already. We are leaving only a little bits of Sokyu left. So always finish your food. Don't waste food. There's always there's so many poor people, don't know enough food to eat. All around the world. In Yemen, in Africa, in Antarctica, on the moon, in the Mars. So don't waste food. Don't waste food. So basically, you must finish all the food and pretty much left a little bit. I think Sokyu will be captured within the next 24 hours. Just like the situation at Rozdolivka. Previously, there was this report, the planting of the flag and whatnot, and within 2-3 days, we have seen the entire settlement has been captured. I think Sokyu will be next. So that's all for Sokyu. And at this southern central part, over at the Novoselivka, Persha region, Russian forces are continuing the attack in the area of Novoselivka, Persha. There is also a consolidation of the front line north of Umansky, south of Novoporotsky. So Russian forces are making this push, and they are going to advance in 2 different directions towards Novoselivka, Persha. So far, the advancement around here is pretty slow. North of this location, there is geolocations of FPV drone hitting a Bradley. Further up in another FPV drone also hit another Bradley. So 2 Bradleys are defending this position. Maybe this is also why Russians are making a slow push around here, because the Bradleys are defending. Bradleys are extremely good against infantry because of the fast-firing autocannons. Basically they can wipe out entire infantry squads within seconds. So I think the presence of the Bradleys is holding back, because nowadays in modern warfare, it seems like infantry is very important. Like, it's really very infantry centric. Armor. Yes, you can use, but they are also massive targets and very big targets for drones to hit. So, and they're very expensive to replace. So I think having Bradleys around in the defensive position, which is actually what it's supposed to be used for, just like the Abrams tanks and everything. NATO equipments are basically pretty much defensive in nature. You can use it for offensive, but of course, against a strong defended position, exactly happened at the Zaporizhia front against the Slovakian line. Everything dies. So the yeah, but when you see that the real power, the real effectiveness comes when you use it in a very standoff-ish kind of way, fire support. This is also how I play computer games. When I play squad, I play Battlefield. When I use infantry fighting vehicles, I never storm the front. I always sit far behind and just rack up the kills. So whatever it is, yeah, there's always lesson to be learned in computer games. Over at the Donetsk front, at the Battle of Krasnohorivka, Russian forces are continuing the Battle of Krasnohorivka, and according to the Russians, they have taken huge grounds around in the eastern part of the city, and with this advancement on the east and previous claims, we can see that the Ukrainians may have some kind of potential encirclement developing, and if the Russians continue to close up this encirclement, it will be a disaster for the Ukrainian forces in this part of the city. So the Russians are also supposedly still pushing through the center and on the western part, and there is now further invalidation of Ukrainian claims, with the Russian forces now confirmed they've taken all of these suburb regions, with the two geolocations confirming that the Russians have basically captured almost the entire of the southern half of Krasnohorivka. So the battle will continue, and we are just looking to see whether this front line, this entire area here, will it be corroborated by further geolocations in the future. And also Krasnohorivka seems to be much bigger. There's also this entire northern districts, which I usually did not see it like a Krasnohorivka part of place. But anyway, if we added that in, then of course Krasnohorivka is only half taken by the Russian forces. So it's a massive place. I think this entire area should have its own name, man. This is a huge portion of grounds. Whatever it is, moving on, over at the Georgivka region in the Masymelenivka, Russian forces continue their attack in Masymelenivka and expanded their control according to the Russian claims. And they are also fighting in the area of Georgivka, fighting northward. So this is the situation around here. Ukrainian forces are still holding the line around here. And I have, my vocabulary is shit, man. I can only say around here. So with this area, as I mentioned in the frontline changes report, Russian forces taking this tree line will allow them to launch attacks from two different directions, and of course through the center, three different directions. So it will just give the Russians more operational flexibility in storming the Masymelenivka. So now, of course, the northern part of Georgivka is not fully captured, so Ukrainian forces are probably still in the area. So the Russians are still have their work cut out to push up north to secure the position. So and further south, there is some massive change. Over in the northern part of the Konstantinivka region, Russian forces have taken huge grounds with the capture of Paraskovievka, as well as the latest frontline change, as the Russian forces have reached basically the edge of Konstantinivka. The entire region north of Novomikhailivka has fallen to the Russians, because I mentioned before, this is pretty much a very difficult place to reinforce and resupply. So the fall of it, not exactly a surprise, but it is a massive amount of grounds here. We're talking about like almost 9 square kilometers of ground being captured by the Russian forces. Is a lot of grounds, and the Russians also expanded control in Boyeda. So there is some major trench line in the north around here. So Russian forces, of course, is not going to just breeze through all this area here. So it's going to be a very difficult fight around here. We will just wait and see how this develops. There far away, there is Ukrainian artillery getting destroyed. I think over in the north, there's also another artillery getting destroyed. There's an Iskander hitting a Ukrainian HIMARS over at this area just off Yesonove. So I've looked at the footage for this one. This HIMARS strike is a bit questionable because the HIMARS doesn't look very clear. The footage is very, very blurred, so you can only take their words for it. Further in the south of Konstantinivka, Russian forces are pushing towards Vodian still in this very vague front line in the south of Konstantinivka. The push is still ongoing, so we just don't have any updates. But I think that when the update comes, it's just going to be an avalanche again, similar to the situation around here, where the information just suddenly drops and it's just a lot of changes. So this is most likely what's going to happen. Over at the Velika Novosilka sector, there is no reports of fighting in the Staromayansky and Uruzhany region. What we do have is just some geolocation of the Ukrainian forces position getting attacked by the Russian forces, but that's about it. Because footages, generally I cannot use it for reports of whether there is fighting, because the video may be dated. So that's all from the Donetsk front. And we move on into the Zaporizhia front. At the Zaporizhia front, things went quiet except for at Robotine. According to two majors, there is some fighting around here, reportedly capturing a Ukrainian stronghold. But the Russians seems to have struggled to deal with the Ukrainian FPV drone situation. The Ukrainians are using a lot of drones, and it seems to be a consistent theme across the entire Ukraine war. So this is something that the Russians have to deal with. Russian forces over in the northwest of Verbove seems to have made some progress, very, very small progress, so the Russian forces are pushing this direction and this direction. Maybe they are trying to just go around the Surovikin line, because the Ukrainians are still holding this Surovikin line around here, a small little part of it. So yeah, going around it may be a good way to just avoid fighting in the trenches, perhaps. And that's all from the this area here at the Zaporizhia front. I believe there's a geolocation I may have missed. Where is the M270? Is it here? Here? Oh yeah. So going to the Kherson front. So one of the big news over the past 24 hours is the release of the footage of the destruction of the M270. M270 is a track version of the HIMARS that have double the payload. It looks really cool. This MLRS apparently drove out, but they did not fire their rockets or the missiles, and it got spotted by Russian civilian drones. So the drones basically followed the M270 back home into a major warehouse, and then the Russians launched a missile strike on it. So the warehouse in question is this one. So the Ukrainian store it here. The vehicle went into the storage, and the Russian forces basically struck it. The entire building was destroyed, entirely destroyed. So the M270 is likely to have been killed. And if there is any mechanics, technicians, engineers, there is especially if they're coming from the NATO side to support this operation, be inside the warehouse to help to repair the vehicle, they are probably dead. So that's important thing note. And this video is published by the Russian Defense Ministry, and it went viral in the Ukraine war space. So because M270s are very cool weapons, really cool weapons, and they are really hard to spot. The destruction of them, is a rare thing to find. And the fact that they are at Shevchenkove is really a silly thing to do, because the entire of this southern front, in fact, let me draw. This entire area here is a kill zone for Russian drones. It's the entire area here. So even up to Odessa, as you can see, there's an Iskander striking a S-300 air defense system, and the fact that they have a video footage of it just shows the extent of the Russian civilian drones. And in fact, they can even fly all the way into Kryvyi Rih. So the distance of the Russian drones can be super far. They can even fly into Transnistria if they want to. So then the Russians are constantly hunting for something to kill in the Kherson front. This area here is particularly dangerous. This is death zone. This is the zone where you come to die. So if you do not hide yourself well and you got spotted, the chances is the next moment it will be an airstrike, missile strike, artillery strike, lancet strike, depending on what you are, and the Russians are going to hit you. To push a M270 so close, I think it is a very, very silly decision. I think it's a very bad decision by the Ukrainian side. I'm quite sure they sent this here so that they can hit something further away. You see, from this location, they can around 300 kilometers. This is where they can hit Sevastopol and Simferopol, and also of course some of these further positions, almost reaching Feodosia. Feodosia is also one of the Ukrainian favorite target. So if you talk about 300 kilometers, around 300 kilometers, this is where they need to be to hit the most of Crimea. And this is possibly why they are getting pushed so far into the front line. But this is just a dangerous place to be, because the entire of the Kherson front has already become a target poor area. It used to be a target rich area. Russian Lancet, the Russian drone forces have a field day killing all sort of targets, from tanks to artillery systems, air defense systems. Almost every day there is geolocation of destructions. And it has been stopped for a long time because most of these targets was destroyed, and the Russians are struggling to find new targets, and we start to see geolocations getting further and further away because they just cannot find targets anymore, because the Ukrainians have basically avoided this entire area. But sending the M270 so close is just a disaster. And you can see, like I said, this S300 got spotted this far out. We are talking about the distance, maybe 100 kilometers. So this is just a gamble by the Ukrainian side, a big gamble by the Ukrainian side. And also further news of the fighting. We can now, based on the two majors, the pro-Russian report can confirm that the Russians are now pushing on both directions towards Pridniprovsky. There's a bridge over here. This is a railway bridge, and also towards Dachi, in the area of Dachi, and this is towards the Antonovsky Bridge. So the Russians are pushing in two different areas, and we're not sure where the front line are. We're not sure where the front line, because we're only getting reports from the Russian side saying that there is skirmishes around this area here. And these are not major battles. These are just small infantry squads contacting each other. So this is based on the information coming from the pro-Russian side. According to two majors, they say that there are some reports from headquarters saying that there's a complete control of all the island zones, which is refuted by the frontline soldiers on the ground. So definitely this is still very contested. These are all forests and no swamps, and it's just not going to be easy places for the Russians to just take control. Ukrainian forces can just cross in any location, so this is just not a good place to call it their own, unless the Russians are going to cross over to the other side, which is also not going to be an easy place to fight in. So yeah, so the fighting is just going to be very low level. So fighting towards Dachi and Pridniprovsky might not be very necessary, but the Russians are doing it. So let's see how this goes. So further geolocation is TOS-1A hitting some of this Konka River coastal region, which shows that the Ukrainians may have this position around here, because the Russians are holding in the city south of the Chaika River. The Konka River region is the Ukrainian controlled area. So that's one thing. And there's other further geolocation, that Tyahinka FPV drone. This is a FAB strike. This is a FAB strike Ivanivka. This is a guided missile strike over at the Tokarivka. So Russian forces are concentrating their firepower around here, which is where the Ukrainians have a lot of forces. These forces are previously used to support Krinky. Some people ask me about Krinky. I have no idea. The last report about Krinky was by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on the 12th. That's around 2 weeks already. There's no information for 2 weeks. So we do not know what had happened around this area here. So that's about it. So this is the situation report, or the SITREP for the day of 856 for the 28th of June. Do press the like button, subscribe. If you watch to this point, clearly you should press the subscribe button to support DPA's work. The bigger the sub base, the further we can actually reach more people. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next update.